Good evening, everybody. This is Cinnamon Noir.
And this is the Ramen Shaman.
Welcome to Kero Blaster. This is a game I've been very into lately, so I decided we'd do a little Let's Play of it. This is actually a game by Pixel. I don't know if you remember him, Daisuke Amaya. He made a Cave Story, little game, indie game you may have heard of. But this is something he did more recently. The game originally came out in 2014, and there were substantial changes made to it in 2015. I just got into it about a week ago, actually. So this game does have a story. It has more of a story than you might expect from a game with such a simple, gameplay. But it's not a terribly complicated story. So you work for a company called Cat and Frog Inc., which is run by this cat, the purple cat. And you play as the frog. There are two other employees of this business. There's the little pink lady, who... I don't know exactly what kind of people they're supposed to be, but it's the most common type of person in this universe. And then there's also that black cat who's sort of a scientist.
Yeah, I was going to say the person on the right's obviously a cat.
So two cats. They don't believe in proportional representation at this company. Frickin' cats. Cat industrial complex. Anyway, so they were asking some questions earlier. The pink lady asked what our job is. And the guy said custodial sciences, which means you're like a trash collector. Actually, I would say you're more like an exterminator. Your job is to get rid of bugs. We're going to see in particular a little bit later exactly what kind of bugs those are. They have a name. There's a special name for them in this game. It's kind of funny. Later on, there's a hard mode of this game. It's called Zangyo, which is Japanese for overtime. And in that one, all of the bugs that you normally fight are replaced by piles of work. Like documents. And you have to destroy the documents. Like, you're literally destroying, shooting up the things that... the paperwork. It's weird. Anyway, one of the best things about this game, the things I like most about it, is enemy variety. Even in the first level, they start throwing lots of different types of enemies at you quickly. Those first ones we saw, the plants, just spit out something. It's very simple to avoid. But these ones we're seeing here, these little spiky hatted guys, they're a lot trickier. They shoot out these little twirling pills. And they hop around. The hopping around is actually the harder part. Funnily enough, this game is actually not the hardest, but more difficult near the beginning because you only have 2 hearts.
Than it is later on.
Pretty soon you're able to buy a couple of health upgrades, which are very cheap to begin with, and then the game gets a lot easier. Health upgrades and a new gun. Right now we have what's called, I think literally it's called a pea shooter. Because,
I've run into that, I've run into that kind of phenomenon in other games.
Yeah, it's funny. Power-up games like this.
Where the upgrades, outstrip the enemies.
I wouldn't exactly say that happens in this game, although there is the potential for it. There's a dynamic. It goes back and forth. There's a lot of upgrades in this game and a lot of different types of enemies, so it gets complicated. Anyway, so we've gotten our...
That's good.
Yeah, it is. This game is a lot deeper than it looks on the surface, actually. It's only $10. It was really an amazing find for me. This game surprised me with how good it was. But, I guess I should have expected from Daisuke Amaya. Cave Story is a very well-respected game.
Do you get any, Castlevania vibe from this game?
No, I don't, actually. Maybe the original Castlevania, which I haven't played. It is a little bit similar to that, but it doesn't remind me of the classic Metroidvanias that I'm used to. Honestly, those games are more like Dark Souls, which we were watching earlier.
Well, yeah.
So I look at the next upgrade and I see that it takes 500 coins, so it's going to be a while before we get that.
Yeah.
Which is good, because the laser is actually a very powerful weapon. At this point in the game, it would be extremely overpowered.
It's a shame there isn't an intermediate stage.
I don't actually think it is a shame, because, as you'll soon see, there are many other types of weapons. So, you don't really need to upgrade the original pea shooter that much. In fact, until we get the laser, it's not going to be one of my favorite choices. There are others that are better.
Interesting.
You get a new weapon or upgrade at the end of each level in this game, for the most part. That stops after... It stops for the final couple of levels. But there are 5 different types of guns, and there is another upgrade that is not a gun that I'm not going to spoil because it's too good to spoil. Anyway, those other enemies you're just seeing, those little kind of snake-looking guys, They can be a little bit tricky if you're not used to them, because they run very quickly. And if you let them go, if you like don't shoot them right away, they will just zip across the screen. But it's not too hard to lay down suppressive fire in this game. There's very little reason not to be shooting at all times, actually, in this game. Anyway, so here's a little secret. One of the first of the secret chests we're going to find. Not that you get much of a payoff for it right now, but every...
Yeah, do the secret chests usually just give money?
Always. With very few exceptions. There are not many things to collect in this game besides money. We will later find 1-ups, which are important, and then also sometimes hearts will drop from enemies, which can be very helpful. In this first level, obviously, it's very simple. We don't see the depth of this game yet, but it is going to ramp up pretty soon. I think we're actually heading for the first boss now. Very close. Normally, there will be some way of getting a heart back near the boss. Not all your hearts, but at least one. Just to make things a little easier. And here we are at the first boss. There's kind of an ominous skeleton. Maybe a warning, I'm not sure. Anyway, I completely chumped out on that first volley. So here's the first boss. It's this weird little mechanical plant guy. He pops out of his shell and lets loose all of those little fireballs. I think he's supposed to be sort of a bigger version of the plants we saw earlier, because they also shot fireballs that looked exactly the same.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting some kind of deja vu. I'm trying to think what boss he reminds me of.
I don't know either. But he's actually kind of interesting. I like this huge volley that he does as soon as you get him down. But we have blown him up, and now we get the first weapon, which is... Sorry, the first new weapon, which is the fan. I really like the fan. It's good to start with, and it only gets better.
Actually, well, a boss opening up a weak spot periodically.
Well, obviously, that's very well worn.
In a number of games.
Oh, sure.
One of the things it makes me think of is Ramon Salazar.
Yeah, the flower thing. So anyway, we head back to the office. You head back to the office between every mission. And our boss seems a little weird. She's much fatter, and there are flies buzzing around her. That's not explained. That's not going to be explained for a very long time.
I thought you were going to say, that's not explained.
At all. No, it is. Anyway, we get a little bonus from the scientist here, a heart jar, which can be very helpful. It restores your health when you run out. Apparently, this is what we get instead of a travel allowance. Which is weird. I don't know how you would give, like, a heart to someone on a taxi. Be like, that ought to cover it. Black market organ funds, maybe? I don't know. That's what you have to do in New York City. You have to pay an organ in order to get your cab ride. So here's the second level we have. I really like the style of this level. The fact that it takes place at night. It's very stylized. And then the huge flowers and all those things you climb on. It's just a very interesting setup. We also get a chance here to use our fan. One of the nice things about the fan is that it's not affected at all by being underwater, which other guns are.
Interesting.
And we start seeing that because there's a lot of water in this level.
Actually, this is a fairly obvious comparison, but what I'm thinking now a bit is Cuphead.
You think so? Yeah, there's a little less control over your aim. This game's a little more restricted, and in that sense it's more like an older game, like a Metroid or something like that. Actually, there are some Metroid comparisons.
Well, one thing I think I like more about this is that your weapons have more noticeable impact, and also...
Yeah, they're pretty punchy.
Well, the other thing is you can see how much damage you're doing.
Yeah, the numbers are very helpful. I was not expecting them to be as important as they actually are. That's very similar to Cave Story. Cave Story had exactly the same style, that mechanic.
Yeah.
I don't dislike Cave Story's basic mechanics of shooting and platforming, actually. It's more just the design of the levels that I'm not as fond of. Which is not to say Cave Story is bad. It is fun. It's just for some reason I've never been encouraged to finish it, whereas this game I have finished several times. This game's also shorter, it's more linear, it's easier, I'll just say that right off the bat. Cave Story is a difficult game, and it's part of the reason I've never finished it, because I'm lazy. But you will eventually see me working pretty hard in this game.
Yeah.
This room, the first time I played this game, completely freaked me out, because these guys rush at you much quicker than other enemies. And you have to do quite a bit of damage to them before they'll get off your case. Another thing is that if you don't hit them on the first volley, they will continually respawn until you do. So they can take off a lot of health, and this early in the game, you only have 3 hearts. So I actually died several times in that room the first time I played this game.
They kind of remind me of eagles from Far Cry 4.
No, they're kind of like eagles in Castlevania, actually. It's funny, now that you're mentioning Castlevania, this is very similar to the very first Castlevania game from 1987 or whenever. I forget exactly when it was. But it's funny, I'd never thought of that until just now, but that actually is a game that it's a lot like. Oh, and here I run into some ridiculous stuff. So there's 2 new kinds of enemies in this room. We have these little obnoxious Cyclops guys who will jump out of the mud and then just follow you around everywhere. And then there are those flies. The flies will chase after you as soon as they get hit once. So I power up my fan to the wide beam, which is also a beam from Metroid Fusion, actually, but that's just a coincidence. The wide beam is a very useful upgrade. One of my favorites in this game early on.
I can see.
It does more damage, 3 instead of 2 for each fan, and then also covers a much wider span, of course, which is the more important development. By the way, be careful standing on that leaf when that guy's below you, because he will jump up.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to remember those guys, actually. Sometimes you'll be trying to avoid the flies, and then those guys will show up and just hit you from behind. They actually move kind of like the Monty Moles from Super Mario World, which were always fun enemies in that game, although they were annoying. So here's another one of those bird chasing rooms. This one's a little harder than the first one because they'll swoop below the scenery, which means that they'll actually be invincible while they're there. Bit of an odd choice. I don't know why a bird would be able to fly through a hill. You'd think they would program around that, but whatever. This game does try to trick you sometimes. It tries to like trap you into weird situations. Here we have a new enemy, these clouds. They don't have much to do to you until you hit them once, at which point they'll start moving a lot faster. I love the expression they make. They start out really cute, and then they just get so annoyed. Peeved is the term I would use for that expression. They're very peeved.
They had clouds in them. It's completely off topic, but...
That's alright, so is this game.
I was trying to remember which Mario game they introduced clouds in.
Like happy clouds? There were clouds in the original Super Mario Brothers. Funnily enough, they had exactly the same sprite as the bushes.
Well, clouds like as in something you could interact with.
I don't know which one that was. So anyway, here we are at the second boss. It starts off with just an ambush of a bunch of these guys, which can catch you off guard if you're not being careful, but if you have the wide beam, this actually isn't a hard fight at all. Finally, this guy shows up. He's the real boss. It's weird, he's quadrupedal, whereas the other guys are bipedal. I don't know if these are supposed to be the same organism at different stages of development or what. Anyway, the more you do damage against him, he'll start to summon little guys behind him, which is tricky because sometimes it's hard to jump over all of them. Like this whole line of people, that's about the limit of what you can jump in one bound.
Oh, but the minions are destroyed when the boss dies.
That's right. That's true for most bosses. There are a lot of bosses in this game that spawn minions. There are actually fewer that don't do that than do. Anyway, now we get a new weapon here, the bubble, which is actually one of the biggest disappointments in the game. There are not many good reasons to use the bubble, even when you upgrade it. However, in some certain very specific circumstances, it's useful. Anyway, I'm gonna get a treasure here, and... Oh.
Oh.
That wasn't a frickin' treasure.
Well, I guess that answers my question about what's in the treasure
This is what I was trying to get this whole time. You know, this is what I fought the whole boss fight for, and it's just nothing. This is me weeping. Anyway, that's just a little... I love how the music stops as soon as you open the treasure chest. It's like the game is just as weirded out as you are. That, by the way, is the only treasure chest in the entire game that contains an enemy.
Interesting.
There are other things that like hold treasures that contain enemies, but not chests. Oh my gosh. How has no one else noticed this yet? She is literally talking blobs. She's talking and blobs are coming out of her speech bubble. Yeah, we need to clear this up very quickly before this woman, like, completely fills the room with tumors. She's just getting bigger and bigger. This can't last forever. It's unsustainable business practices to literally swell until you fill an entire office. Anyway, so here we are in the 3rd level, the Ox Hotel. This game, by the way, has 7 levels. I did 3 in the first video because the earlier ones are shorter. There's going to be 2 more for the main playthrough, and they'll both have 2 levels in it. And yet they will be longer than this first one because that is how in-depth the later levels are.
How long did you say this game was overall?
You mean for a first playthrough?
Yeah.
I'd say probably a couple of hours. That includes dying a couple of times. If you did a perfect run of this game, I don't think it'd be much more than an hour. Maybe an hour and a half.
Fair enough.
It's a short, simple game, but I still think it's worth the price. Anyway, here we have some new enemies. Here is this fox guy. Sorry, not fox. Bat. They're similar, you know, some bats are called flying foxes. I got confused. Anyway.
For some reason, when you first said that, I misheard it as fawns, and
there's a lot of Fonzes in this game you have to defeat.
Wait, does that guy just throw coins at you?
He did it first, and then when he ran out of coins, he starts throwing books, which actually hurt you. I got misled by this at first, and he actually beamed me a couple of times with those books. I think I died in this room the first time I played the game.
Yeah, because my initial reaction would be that he's trying to help you.
Yeah, it looks like it. There are actually some enemies in Castlevania that are like that. They stand behind a bar and throw drinks at you, and then after they've thrown a couple drinks, they start throwing worse stuff.
Interesting.
Anyway, I was going to say about the bat. That pink bat will fly down and start sending out a distress call, and if you don't kill it fast enough, then a bunch of bats will come flying through the room at you. Sort of like a mini instance that you have to defeat. But the rest of the bats will just fall down at you, and they're much easier to get rid of. They will fall as soon as you pass the line where they are, though, so you have to be wary of that. Another new enemy here are these moles. They throw rocks at you. That's pretty much all they do, though. Here we have another not very well hidden chest. Chests get better hidden as we go through the game. Yeah, you can tell from the little bits of water that are showing through the background that you can go through this. You can go through the room that way too, which is a little weird. I guess that's your last chance to figure out there was a secret chest there.
There's no drowning mechanics there.
No, there is not. You can breathe infinitely underwater. So here we have the first real mini-boss in this game. From here on out, every level's going to have a mini-boss, and you have to get through it in order to get to this shop. The nice thing in this game, though, is that when you defeat a mini-boss once, it's defeated forever. So you don't have to keep beating it every time you go through the level if you die. Which the first time you play this game, you probably will do that a lot, so you'll be very grateful that you don't have to fight the mini-boss again. It's nice. It means that you have a real sense of progress in this game. So that even if you lose one run through, you still might have made some progress.
At least there's something that won't respawn.
Another thing that helps that, and is in fact one of the best mechanics in this whole game, I think, is that dying does not make you lose your money. You get to keep your money. So, the more you die, the more you have the chance to buy stuff that can help you out.
That reminds me of, Rogue Legacy.
Rogue Legacy's like that?
Well, in that you get to keep your money after you die.
Yeah. So I decided not to power up the bubble. It's really not worth it. I don't think I have ever powered up the bubble in this game, except at the very end when I've had nothing else to spend money on. That's the way it goes. So we have some new enemies in here. In this second stage, there's a lot of underwater stuff. And we have those fish, who don't really matter much. More importantly, these electric urchins. Every time you hit them, they will send out a bunch of electric waves, pulses. And you have to be careful with them, but they're actually not too difficult. The reason I'm hesitating here was I was expecting a bat to come down and hit me, but I think I was thinking of a different place in this game. There's a bat. You may have noticed we're picking up a lot of lives in this level.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little bonuses in this. This may have a higher density of collectibles than any other level in the game. I don't know.
Well, it's probably, Do the levels get harder from here on out?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe that's why.
Could be. Although, the next level, I would say, is not the hardest in the game. It's the one after that. So yeah, we're doing a lot of underwater stuff here. You may have guessed that the boss of this level is also underwater. One of only 2 bosses in this whole game, I think, that are underwater. This game, though, has pretty good water mechanics. Nothing too annoying. They're slower and clumsier than above-ground mechanics, but that's alright.
Yeah, well, I mean, water mechanics in platformers in general are generally not well.
They've never been done all that well. This game doesn't get on my nerves, though, which is pretty much anything I expect from an underwater segment.
Yeah. Probably because it doesn't, it's not that clumsy, I guess.
No, this game is
They're
pretty tight
obviously
controls
a little
overall.
clumsier.
Some people have compared it to Mega Man in that sense. Controls are pretty tight. Anyway, here is a type of gameplay thing that we're going to be seeing a lot from here on out. Going past a tripwire that starts a wheel rolling toward you that you have to escape from. This one's pretty simple. You just have to keep running forward and you'll escape it. Later ones are going to be a little more complicated.
Indiana Jones. Which
Yeah, exactly.
It's
a little
one
more
of those
industrial, though.
Movie moments. It seems like that it feels like a video game moment.
Yeah, it does, actually. I always really liked that section of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I wonder if they were going for iconic, because that's how everyone seems to have treated it after the fact.
I know, I think one of the guys from... I think his companion in that section was actually the same guy who later played Dr. Octopus.
Alfred Molina. Yep, definitely.
Yep.
And Snidely Whiplash, actually. Role he was
That's
born to play.
weird.
Yeah, that whole movie is weird.
Yeah.
Dudley Do-Right. Anyway, I managed to defeat this fish boss. He gave me a lot of trouble the first time I played this game. And I'm going to confess frankly, the only reason I got through it this time is because I had that heart boost. Heart jar. I did not play very well there. But it doesn't matter, you don't have to play well in this game.
Now you have a double jump.
And now I have a jetpack. This is the thing I was not going to spoil. But I really love the jetpack in this game. It's interesting. It has a pretty specific arc, actually. If you are pointed straight up when you press the double jump button, you will head absolutely straight up. So a lot of vertical, but almost no horizontal. If, on the other hand, you're moving forward when you do that, you will go very far horizontally and almost not at all vertically. You have to be very careful about that in later levels. And we are not even going to touch this situation with a 10-foot pole.
Okay, then.
Boss has gotten real weird. Yeah, something's wrong with the president. She's turning into a giant jelly bean. Yeah, not much to say, really. Our company's going down the tubes. This is what caused the Japanese recession in 1997.
Cat bosses bloating.
Yeah. Actually, funny thing, this game, its plot is kind of tied into concepts of what Japanese businesses are like, and we'll see that later.
Huh.
I love it. Is it all white? At this point, no idea. I think the joke is, like, is it all right? Is it all white? It's weird. Anyway. So, we will start the next video at White Laboratories, and we will see you then. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.